The twin suns of Velkara burned high over the great arena, painting the sand below in gold and crimson. A sea of alien spectators filled the circular stands, their scaled faces glinting beneath banners of silver flame. The air trembled with roars, laughter, and the clash of drums. It was not just a duel. It was a celebration of dominance, of the Dravari Empire's power. And in the very center of that storm stood Princess Karel, heir to the throne, commander of the Imperial Vanguard, undefeated in over 100 battles. Her armor, forged from living metal, rippled with every movement, silver plates shifting and flowing like liquid. Her twin plasma blades hummed in her hands, each strike capable of cutting through starship hulls. She was beautiful, fierce, and deadly. Every eye in the arena adored her. Across from her stood a human. He wore no armor of honor, no glowing implants, no weapon of status. Just a dark, worn combat suit dusted with sand and streaked with faded battle scars. His name was Captain Elias Grant of the Terran Frontier Corps, though here few cared to remember it. To the Dravari, he was nothing but a strange little creature from a backward world, a fragile mammal playing soldier among gods. The crowd jeered when he entered. Alien voices rang out like knives in the air. Look, he doesn't even have armor. Is that really a human? So small. He'll die before she finishes her first swing. Karel smiled beneath her helm, her fangs catching the light. She had fought countless enemies across the stars, mechanical warlords, plasma beasts, rebel generals, but never a human. This was supposed to be a lesson, a warning to those primitive Terrans who dared challenge Dravari expansion. She stepped forward, her boots pressing deep into the sand. "They told me humans are brave," she said, her voice amplified through the arena speakers. "But bravery without power is nothing but foolishness." Elias didn't respond. He simply stood there, calm, silent, his blue eyes fixed on her. The look wasn't defiance, it was something else. Quiet. Focused. Like a man watching a storm he already understood. Karel tilted her head. "Do you even understand what's about to happen?" He finally spoke, his tone steady and unshaken. "I understand enough. You think this will be quick? You think I'll fall in a minute?" The princess chuckled, lowering into a fighting stance. "Not even that long." The arena horns blared, echoing like thunder. The duel began. Karel moved first. Her armor surged with power, thrusters igniting as she lunged forward in a streak of silver light. The crowd erupted in cheers. Her first swing sliced through the air, leaving a glowing trail of plasma. Her second came faster, a horizontal cut meant to cleave him in two. But Elias wasn't there. He sidestepped smoothly, sand crunching beneath his boots. The plasma blade missed by inches, the heat singing his sleeve. Karel snarled and spun, her movements blindingly fast. She struck again and again, each blow heavy enough to break stone. Yet the human slipped through them all like smoke. The crowd's laughter grew louder at first, mocking the human for dodging instead of fighting. But as the seconds passed, the laughter began to fade. Something was wrong. Karel's attacks were flawless. No warrior in the Empire could match her technique. But this human, he read her. Every time she swung, he moved before she did, like he already knew where her blade would go. Her breathing quickened. The sand burned beneath her armor's thrusters. She lunged again, this time faster, more desperate, and he ducked under her guard, brushing past her shoulder. She felt a tap, light but precise, on the joint of her gauntlet. A spark of plasma sputtered. Her left blade flickered out. The crowd gasped. Karel froze, eyes wide. Elias took a slow step back, calm as ever. "Your left side's open," he said quietly. "You rely too much on your armor. You let it fight for you." His voice wasn't mocking. It was soft, almost respectful. That made it worse. Karel roared, fury flooding her chest. "You dare lecture me, human!" She ignited her remaining blade, her movements fueled by rage. She attacked again, wild and furious, her blade painting the air with light. Elias kept moving, sidestepping, deflecting, barely touching her armor, yet always staying one step ahead. Seconds stretched into a minute. Then 2, then 3. The Dravari crowd had gone silent. The only sounds were the hum of plasma, the crunch of sand, and Karel's heavy breathing. Finally, Elias moved in. One sharp motion, too fast for the eye to follow. He caught her wrist mid-swing and twisted. Her plasma blade flew from her hand, landing in the sand with a hiss. Before she could react, his foot swept behind her knee, and she fell backward hard, armor scraping against the ground. In one fluid motion, he stopped, his hand extended, offering to help her up. Karel lay there, stunned. She couldn't process it. She, heir of the Dravari throne, trained from birth to be a weapon, had been disarmed by a human. A creature she was told was weak, slow, inferior. The crowd watched in silence, disbelief spreading like fire. Elias stood quietly, his expression unreadable. "Minutes up," he said softly. For a moment, Karel wanted to lash out, to rise and strike him again, but something in his eyes stopped her. There was no arrogance there, no mockery, just calm understanding. He wasn't her enemy. He was something else, something she didn't yet understand. He turned and began walking toward the gate, the suns glinting off his dark hair. Behind him, Karel pushed herself up slowly, her armor scorched, her pride in pieces. She looked at the fallen plasma blades, then at the human's retreating figure. The silence in the arena felt heavier than any roar. For the first time in her life, Princess Karel didn't feel victorious. She felt something far stranger, curiosity, respect, and deep inside a burning question she couldn't ignore. Who was this human? The great arena of Velkara stood eerily quiet after the duel. The crowds had gone, their voices now whispers carried by the wind. Only the marks of battle remained. Burned sand, melted stone, and a faint trail where Elias's boots had left calm, measured steps toward the exit. Princess Karel stayed long after everyone had left. Her armor hung open, damaged at the joints, smoke curling from its vents. She stared at her reflection in the broken plasma blade lying in the sand. For the first time in her life, she saw something she couldn't name. Doubt. How could a creature like him stand against her? How could someone so small and soft move like that, fight like that, win like that? She had trained since she could walk. Her muscles were enhanced with biosteel, her bones reinforced with energy lattice. Her reflexes could track a plasma round in flight. She was bred to be perfect, and yet he had beaten her. Without even drawing a weapon. She clenched her fists, feeling anger coil in her chest, but it wasn't the usual kind. This was sharper, quieter. A burning curiosity mixed with something that almost felt like respect. When she returned to the palace that evening, the court was waiting. The emperor, her father, sat upon his throne of black crystal surrounded by nobles and generals. His voice thundered as she entered. "You lost," he said coldly. To a human? Karel knelt, her head low. "Yes, father," the nobles murmured among themselves. Some pitied her. Others hid their smirks. A Dravari warrior princess defeated by a primitive, unthinkable. Her father's gaze was hard. "You have shamed the bloodline," he said. "You are the face of Dravari power, and now the stars laugh at us." "I accept my failure," she said quietly. "But I do not understand it." The emperor's eyes narrowed. "There is nothing to understand." He was lucky. Humans are unpredictable. That is all. Karel hesitated. "No, father." It wasn't luck. He knew every move before I made it. It was as if he had fought this battle 1,000 times already. The court went silent. The emperor rose from his throne. "Enough, you will forget this humiliation. The human will be sent back to his fleet tomorrow." But Karel couldn't forget. Not that calm voice. Not those eyes. Not the way he had spoken without fear. As if the battle had never truly mattered to him. That night, while the palace slept, Karel disobeyed her father's orders. She found Elias in the holding quarters near the hangar, an open metal hall lit by the pale glow of the moons. He sat alone at a small table, cleaning a cracked piece of his combat gear. No guards stood near him. None were needed. He hadn't tried to escape. He hadn't even asked for food. When she entered, he looked up slowly. "Princess," he greeted simply, standing out of habit. His voice was calm, the same steady tone she remembered from the arena. Karel crossed her arms, trying to hide the emotion in her voice. "You fight well for someone so fragile." Elias smiled faintly. "You fight well for someone so sure she can't lose." Her eyes narrowed. "You mock me?" "Not at all," he said, shaking his head. "I respect you. You're strong, fast, skilled. But strength without control, it burns itself out." She frowned, confused. "You speak as if fighting is not about strength." "It's not," Elias said quietly. "It's about surviving. And no one in this galaxy is better at that than humans." His words hung in the air like a quiet storm. Karel tilted her head, curious despite herself. You think survival makes you better? He looked at his hands, the rough skin, the old scars. It makes us different. You Dravari are born strong. You fight because you expect to win. Humans fight because we can't afford to lose. We fight because behind every battle, there's something we love too much to give up. For a moment, neither spoke. The silence felt heavy but not hostile. Karel finally said, You read me during the duel. You moved as if you could see through my armor. I didn't see through your armor, he said softly. I saw through your pattern. You were trained to fight like a machine. Efficient, precise, predictable. Humans fight like chaos. We learn from pain, from fear, from failure. That's something your people haven't had to do for a long time. His tone wasn't insulting, it was almost sad. Karel felt something strange stirring inside her chest. No alien, no rival had ever spoken to her like that. Not as an enemy, not as prey, but as someone equal. You said in the arena that I wouldn't last a minute, he said, looking up. You were right. I didn't win because I was stronger. I won because I never stopped learning, even while losing. She looked at him silently, and for the first time she didn't see a fragile creature from a lesser world. She saw a soldier, one who had bled, lost, and still stood tall. What drives you, human? She finally asked. What keeps you standing when your body says fall? He smiled faintly. Hope, and the people waiting back home. That's what keeps us all standing. His answer was simple, but the emotion behind it struck her like a blade. In her world, warriors fought for glory, for the empire, for bloodlines. But this human, he fought for something invisible, something that lived in his heart. Karel turned away, feeling a strange warmth in her chest. You are not what I expected, she said quietly. And you're not what I was told, Elias replied. When she left the holding quarters, the night wind carried the sound of his words behind her. For the first time, she didn't feel like a conqueror. She felt small, but not in a bad way. Small, like standing under the vast sky and realizing how much more there was to learn. The next morning, Karel stood by the landing platform as the Terran ship prepared to depart. The Emperor's orders were clear: send the human back and erase the shame. But as the engines roared to life, Karel couldn't stop herself from speaking. Captain Grant, he turned at the ramp's edge. Next time, she said softly, I will last longer than a minute. Elias smiled, that same calm, steady smile. I don't doubt it. The ramp closed. The ship lifted into the pale dawn sky, leaving trails of light behind. Karel watched until it vanished. The world felt quieter now, emptier. But something inside her had changed. The princess who once believed she could never be defeated now understood something deeper. Defeat wasn't the end. It was the beginning, and in her heart she made a silent vow. She would find that human again, and when she did, she wouldn't fight to prove she was stronger. She would fight to understand what made him human. Weeks passed since the duel that silenced 1,000 worlds. Yet the memory of that one moment, the human's calm voice, his unshakable eyes, the weight of her defeat, stayed with Princess Karel like a shadow that refused to fade. The Dravari Empire had moved on. Official records of the duel were sealed. Public broadcasts declared it a training exhibition. Her father made sure the Empire believed she had gone easy on the human, that it was a show of diplomacy, not defeat. But Karel knew the truth. Every night, she returned to the training halls in secret. When the palace slept, she stood alone beneath the cold glow of the lunar lamps. Her silver armor rested in the corner, unused, unwanted. She wore only light combat clothes now, her bare hands wrapped in simple cloth. She replayed the duel in her mind again and again. Each dodge, each strike, each breath. She tried to mimic the way Elias moved, calm, steady, never wasting energy. At first she failed. Her training told her to attack faster, hit harder, dominate. But the more she tried to fight like a Dravari, the further she drifted from what she had seen in him. She realized something. He didn't fight for power. He fought for purpose, and that purpose gave him strength beyond any weapon or armor. One night, as she practiced alone, a voice broke the silence. You're moving like a human now. Princess. Karel spun sharply, blades half-drawn, then froze. Standing in the doorway was General Torak, her mentor and her father's most trusted commander. His red armor glowed faintly in the dim light, his eyes sharp but unreadable. You're not supposed to be here, she said quietly. Neither are you, he replied, stepping closer. The Emperor believes you've recovered from the incident. Yet here you are imitating the human you lost to. Karel clenched her fists. He wasn't just a soldier. He was something else, Torak snorted. He was lucky. A weak species pretending to matter. Do not let one mistake poison your mind. Karel met his gaze. Is it poison to learn from defeat? He saw every move before I made it. He fought with control, with heart. I've never seen anything like it. Torak's expression hardened. Careful, princess. Admiration for the enemy is the first step to treason. Karel's eyes flashed with anger. Then maybe we need enemies worth admiring. For a moment, the air between them grew tense. Then Torak sighed. You are your father's daughter, stubborn and proud. But remember your place. The council has decided something you should know. She frowned. What decision? He hesitated before speaking. The Emperor has approved Operation Dawnfall. A full invasion of the Terran frontier. The humans will face the Empire's wrath. Karel felt her heart drop. No, father wouldn't. Torak nodded grimly. He would. The council sees humanity as a threat now. Your defeat made them curious. They believe if one human could defeat a Dravari princess, then humanity could be dangerous. The only way to erase that doubt is to destroy them. Karel's fists tightened. Images of Elias's calm face filled her mind. The quiet strength, the humanity she had come to respect. They don't deserve that, she whispered. You don't understand them. Torak's eyes narrowed. And you do? She met his gaze. I'm beginning to. The general's voice turned cold. Then pray you forget soon, princess. Loyalty to the Empire is not optional. He turned and left, leaving her alone again. But Karel's thoughts burned hotter than ever. If her father went to war, Elias would fight. He would stand with his people, and she knew what that meant. He would die. In the days that followed, preparations for war consumed the palace. Warships filled the skies, factories roared, and Dravari soldiers marched in perfect formation. The Empire was awakening its full might, cold, beautiful, and merciless. Karel stood in the council chamber as her father spoke to the generals. We will strike at the Terran border worlds first, destroy their fleets, break their spirit before they have time to resist. The generals roared their approval. Karel stood silently, her heart heavy. She wanted to speak, but fear held her back. To question her father now was treason. That night she visited the star charts. The glowing hologram of the galaxy stretched before her, dotted with light. Her gaze fell on one small, faint blue mark, the Terran world known as Earth. She placed her hand over it. Elias, she whispered, they're coming for your home. She didn't know why she said it aloud. Maybe because she wanted the stars to hear her. Maybe because she hoped he would somehow feel it. For the first time in her life, Karel felt powerless. The next morning, she made a decision that would change everything. She disguised herself in plain armor, erased her access logs, and took a stealth fighter from the royal hangar. The guard saw nothing. The stars opened before her like a sea of silver fire. Her destination, the human frontier. During the long flight, she remembered every word Elias had spoken. We fight because we can't afford to lose. Because behind every battle, there's something we love too much to give up. She understood it now. The Dravari fought for pride. Humans fought for heart. After 3 days of travel, her ship reached the edges of Terran space. It was there, drifting among the broken remains of a small station, that she picked up a signal. Encrypted, faint, but familiar. This is Captain Elias Grant, Frontier Corps. To any survivors. Hold the line. Her breath caught. His voice was older now, rougher. The war had already begun. Karel leaned forward. Elias, she whispered. She didn't know if he could hear her, but she set her course toward the signal anyway. The stars stretched around her like a tunnel of light, and for the first time in her life she felt something she had never felt before. Fear. Not for herself, but for someone else. As she crossed into Terran territory, alarms blared across her console. A squadron of human fighters locked onto her ship. Unidentified craft, this is Terran defense. Power down your engines and identify yourself immediately. Karel's heart pounded. She knew what humans did to Dravari soldiers. They were the enemy now. If she revealed who she was, they would shoot her down without hesitation. But she couldn't turn back. Taking a deep breath, she opened the channel. "This is Karel of Dravari. I come unarmed. I seek Captain Elias Grant." There was a long, tense silence. Then a voice replied, sharp and disbelieving. "Say that again?" "I said I seek Captain Elias Grant." Another pause. Then softly, "Princess Karel, you're either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid." A flicker of hope stirred in her chest. That voice. It was him, Elias. The stars outside her window shimmered as the Terran ships escorted her toward a distant fleet. And in that moment, Karel realized something. This wasn't just about a duel anymore. It wasn't about pride or revenge. It was about two worlds on the edge of war, and the fragile human bond that could still save them both. The Terran warship Resolute Dawn floated like a dark blade among the stars. Its hull bore the scars of countless battles, burned plating, twisted metal, and faint trails of smoke from the last Dravari assault. Inside, soldiers moved with grim focus, patching wounds, reloading weapons, and preparing for the next wave. When Princess Karel's ship was escorted in, the crew didn't cheer or celebrate. They gathered in silence, their faces hard and wary. Every human in that hangar had lost someone to the war that her people had started. The moment her landing ramp lowered, rifles were raised. "Hold your fire," a familiar voice commanded. Karel's eyes found him immediately, Captain Elias Grant standing at the front of the soldiers. He looked different now, older, sharper. His dark uniform was torn in places, his eyes colder, but that calm strength still burned behind them. For a moment, the chaos of the hangar disappeared. It was just the two of them, staring across the metal floor like echoes from another world. "Princess Karel," he said at last, his tone unreadable. "You picked a dangerous place to visit." She stepped forward slowly, hands raised. "I came unarmed." "I came to warn you," the soldiers murmured, tightening their grips on their weapons. Elias lifted his hand, signaling them to lower their rifles, but he didn't take his eyes off her. "Warn us?" he repeated. "About what? Another attack?" "Yes," she said. "Your fleets are in danger. My father has launched a full invasion. He's sending the Imperial Vanguard, 3 dreadnoughts and hundreds of warships. They'll reach this sector in 3 days." The hangar fell silent. Elias studied her face for a long time, searching for lies. "And why," he said slowly, "should we believe the daughter of the man trying to wipe us out?" Karel looked down, her voice trembling slightly. "Because I was part of his plan once, and now I can't watch it happen. I know what the Empire will do. They will burn your worlds and call it order." Her words hung heavy in the air. The soldiers looked at one another, uncertain. Elias crossed his arms, still calm, but his eyes were harder now. "You risked your life to come here?" he asked. "To betray your own kind?" Karel nodded. "I didn't come for forgiveness. I came because of what you showed me." His brow furrowed slightly. "What I showed you?" "In the arena," she said softly. "When I fought you, I thought power meant victory. But you showed me something else, that strength isn't about dominance. It's about endurance, about what you protect. That's something the Dravari forgot long ago." Her voice shook, but she didn't look away. Elias said nothing for a while. Then he turned to his second-in-command, a tall woman named Commander Rhea. "Get her cleared for medical scans. If she's telling the truth, we'll need her intel." Rhea hesitated. "Sir, she's a Dravari princess. She could be a spy." "Then I'll take responsibility," Elias interrupted firmly. Rhea gave a sharp nod and signaled the soldiers to stand down. Karel let out a slow breath she hadn't realized she was holding. As the humans led her deeper into the ship, she couldn't help but notice their faces. Hard, scarred, tired, but every pair of eyes burned with determination. These were not soldiers born into privilege. They were fighters forged from loss and love, just like Elias had described. And that made them dangerous in a way her empire could never understand. Hours later, Karel stood in the observation deck gazing out at the stars. Earth's distant light shimmered faintly among them, a pale blue, touch she had only ever seen in reports. She wondered what it looked like up close. She wondered what Elias was truly fighting for. Footsteps echoed behind her. She turned to see him enter, his face calm but weary. "They cleared you," he said. "No trackers, no hidden implants. Looks like you were telling the truth." "I told you I came to help," she replied quietly. Elias stepped closer, leaning against the metal railing beside her. "You realize how dangerous this is, right?" If your father finds out where you are, he'll come for you. He'll kill you himself. Carol's eyes softened. I know, but if I do nothing, he'll kill millions of your people. I won't let that happen. Elias looked at her for a long time as if trying to see the warrior beneath the armor of her words. You've changed, he said finally. Carel smiled faintly. Maybe I just started seeing. For a moment they stood in silence, watching the stars drift past. The hum of the ship surrounded them like a quiet heartbeat. Elias, she said suddenly, her voice softer. Do you ever get tired? He blinked. Of what? Of fighting, she said. Of losing people. Of carrying the weight of everything you have to protect. He stared out the window, his jaw tightening. Every day, he admitted. But if I stop fighting, more people die. So I keep going. His answer was simple, but the pain beneath it was clear. Carel felt a strange ache in her chest. She had fought her entire life for honor, but she had never felt what he felt. For him, battle wasn't pride. It was survival. I envy that strength, she whispered. He turned toward her, his eyes steady. Don't, it costs too much. Their eyes met, alien and human, warrior and soldier. And for a heartbeat, the galaxy felt smaller, quieter. The calm didn't last. An alarm blared across the ship, red lights flashing through the halls. Captain, Commander Ria's voice came over the comms. Dravari scout fleet incoming, 6 ships closing fast. Elias straightened instantly. Battle stations. Ready all cannons. He turned to Carol. You said we had 3 days, she looked shocked. We should have. My father must have sent scouts ahead. Elias's expression hardened. Then let's make sure they don't get the chance to report back. He started toward the command bridge, but Carel followed him. You'll need my help, she said. You're not part of this crew, he replied sharply. I know their tactics, she pressed. Their formations, their weaknesses. You can't fight them blind. He hesitated, then nodded once. Fine, but you stay close. The resolute Dawn surged into motion, engines roaring as cannons charged with blue fire. Outside, 6 Dravari ships broke through the darkness, sleek and silver, their weapons glowing like suns. Carel moved beside Elias on the command bridge, calling out coordinates and countermaneuvers. They'll flank right after the first barrage. Dravari always test defenses before striking from above. Understood, Elias said, relaying the orders. The battle began. Energy blasts streaked across the void. The Terran ship shuddered as shields flickered, metal groaning under the strain. But every time the Dravari moved to strike, Carel was there, predicting, guiding, outsmarting. And for the first time, humans and Dravari fought together. When the final enemy ship exploded in a blaze of fire, the crew erupted in cheers. But Carel didn't celebrate. Her eyes stayed fixed on the burning wreckage outside. They'll know where I am now, she whispered. My father will send more. Elias nodded grimly. Then we'll be ready. She turned toward him, her voice quiet but strong. Elia, you don't understand what's coming. My father isn't like me. He won't stop until Earth burns. Elias met her gaze, unflinching. Then we'll stop him. The determination in his voice sent a chill through her, and as the stars burned beyond the glass, Princess Carel realized something she had never thought possible. She no longer wanted her people to win this war. The night sky over Velcara burned with alien stars, cold and distant. In the royal courtyard beneath the shadow of crystal towers, 2 figures stood facing each other again, Elias Grant and Princess Carol. The memory of their battle still hung heavy between them, but something deeper now connected them, something both refused to name. Carel's armor was gone tonight. She wore the traditional dark robes of her house, her hair loose, silver strands shining in the moonlight. She looked less like the proud warrior princess and more like a woman searching for something she had lost long ago. Elias stood opposite her, his uniform simple as always, hands behind his back, eyes calm and steady. For a long moment, neither spoke. Only the wind whispered through the alien trees. Finally, Carel broke the silence. Her voice was quiet, almost uncertain. You fought in silence, she said. You didn't shout. You didn't taunt. You didn't even look angry. Why? Elias took a slow breath. Because anger clouds judgment, he said softly. And because I've seen enough death. I don't fight to destroy. I fight to protect. Her violet eyes lifted to meet his. Protect? But you were fighting me. I wasn't fighting you, Elias replied. I was fighting what you believed about humans, that we're weak, that we break easily. I needed you to see the truth. Carell looked away, ashamed. I did see, and it changed me more than I wanted. She stepped closer, the light from the glowing towers falling across her face. My people think strength is about power, about crushing enemies and proving superiority. But you, she paused, struggling for words, you showed strength through restraint. You could have humiliated me that day, but you didn't. Elias's lips curved slightly. Because real strength doesn't come from dominance, princess. It comes from control. Her chest tightened at his words. No one had ever spoken to her like that before. Not her generals. Not her father. Not even her instructors who had raised her on battlefields. Every compliment she'd ever received had been about her speed, her precision, her skill with weapons, but never about her heart. And that was what frightened her most about Elias Grant. He fought not from pride, but from purpose. I don't understand humans, she admitted softly. You have no empire, no vast armies like ours, yet you never give up. You lose worlds, yet keep coming back. Why? Elias's gaze turned distant, remembering the war-torn skies of his homeworld. Because we remember what it's like to have nothing, he said quietly. We've been broken, crushed, forgotten, but every time we rise again. That's what we are. That's what I am. His words hit her like a blade through armor. Sharp, honest, undeniable. Carell took another step closer. The distance between them shrank until she could almost feel the warmth radiating from his skin. And now? She asked softly. What are you fighting for now, Captain? He looked straight into her eyes. To make sure this war doesn't happen again. For a moment, Carell's breath caught in her throat. The simplicity of his answer disarmed her more than any weapon. He wasn't here for glory or revenge, he was here for peace. And she realized with a painful twist in her chest that she wanted that too, though she'd never dared to say it aloud. But peace was not something easily won. Especially in an empire built on conquest. A sharp sound echoed through the courtyard, metal boots striking stone. Carol's head snapped toward the sound. General Vorth, her father's most loyal commander, emerged from the shadows, flanked by 2 guards. His eyes were cold, his tone full of contempt. Your Highness, he said sharply, the Emperor demands your presence. And the human, his gaze shifted to Elias, is to be detained. Carell's expression hardened instantly. On what grounds? On the grounds of treason, Vorth sneered. You've been seen meeting with him in secret. The council suspects betrayal. Before she could respond, the guard stepped forward. Elias didn't move, but his stance shifted subtly, ready to defend if he had to. Carell raised her hand sharply. No one touches him. Your orders are meaningless without your father's approval, Vorth said. You forget your place, Princess, Carell's fury flared. And you forget yours, General. Her voice carried the authority of royalty now, sharp and commanding. You will not lay a hand on him. If my father wants to see me, I'll go to him myself. Vorth glared at her, but he couldn't defy her outright, not in public. With a low growl, he signaled the guards to step back. Very well, he said coldly. But know this, human. Your time here is ending. When he left, silence returned. Elias exhaled slowly. That was close. Carell turned toward him, anger and fear flickering in her eyes. They will come for you, Elias. My father will not let this go. He'll see you as a threat. I've been a threat all my life, he said quietly. That's what being human means to most of the galaxy. She stepped closer again, her voice trembling. Then let me help you. He looked at her for a long moment, then shook his head. You can't protect me, Carell. Not without turning against your people. Maybe that's what it takes, she whispered. For the first time since they met, Elias saw something break in her, a crack in the proud armor of the Dravari princess. Beneath the warrior's steel there was a heart that ached for freedom, for understanding, for peace. He placed a hand gently on her shoulder. Then promise me one thing, he said softly. No matter what happens, remember who you are. Not the warrior they made you, the person you choose to be. Carell's eyes shimmered in the starlight. And what about you? Elias smiled faintly. Me? I'll keep doing what humans always do. What's that? She asked. He turned toward the horizon where the alien dawn was beginning to rise. Keep fighting, even when no one believes we can win. And as the first light of morning touched their faces, Carell realized something profound. She was no longer the same person who once said, You can't last a minute against me, because now, She wasn't sure she could last a lifetime without him. The grand halls of the Dravari palace had never felt so cold. Princess Karel stood before her father's throne. The great emperor of the Dravari Empire, Lord Jator, conqueror of 13 worlds. His massive form sat on a black crystal seat that seemed to pulse with power. His armor gleamed red under the lights, his eyes like burning coals as they watched his daughter in silence. Before them, kneeling in chains, was Captain Elias Grant. 2 guards held him down, their energy spears pointed close to his throat. Blood streaked his lip and a bruise darkened his jaw. Yet his blue eyes still shone steady, calm, defiant. Karel's fists clenched at her sides. Every instinct screamed at her to act, to fight, to protect him, but she couldn't. Not yet. Her father's gaze pinned her in place like a blade through the heart. "You bring shame to this court," Jator rumbled, his deep voice echoing through the hall. "My own daughter, the champion of Velkara, consorting with a human. Do you know what this means for our honor?" Karel forced her voice steady. "He's not our enemy." Jator's eyes flared brighter. "Not our enemy? His kind has resisted our empire for centuries. They burn our colonies. They kill our soldiers. And you defend one of them?" "He saved me," she said sharply. "When he could have killed me, he didn't. He showed me mercy." "Mercy is weakness," Jator roared, slamming his fist against the armrest. "You forget what you are, Karel. You are Dravari, born to conquer, not to kneel before lesser beings," her voice cracked with emotion. "Then maybe what we are is wrong." The entire hall fell silent. The words echoed off the cold metal walls like thunder. The guards froze, afraid to breathe. Even Elias looked up in shock. Jator rose slowly, his towering figure casting a shadow over her. "Careful, daughter," he growled. "Your tongue walks the path of treason." Karel's heart pounded in her chest, but she didn't look away. "Call it what you want. But you sent me to fight, father, to see strength, and I found it. Not in our empire, not in our blades, but in him." Jator turned his glare on Elias. "Then let him show his strength now," he said coldly. "Release him." The guards obeyed instantly. Elias rose to his feet, his wrists still bound in glowing cuffs. The emperor stepped closer. "You want to live, human? Earn it. Prove to me why my daughter thinks you're worthy of breath." Elias's lip curled faintly. "You want me to fight you?" "No," Jator said. "You will fight her." Karel's blood ran cold. "No," she shouted. "I won't." "You will," her father thundered. "Or I will execute him where he stands." Elias looked at her, calm but firm. "Karel," he said softly, "it's all right." "It's not," she cried. "I won't fight you. I won't be your weapon again." But the guards had already pulled her forward, forcing her to the center of the hall. A circle of energy flared to life around them, the Emperor's private dueling ring. The air hummed with raw power. Elias stood facing her, unarmed, still in cuffs. She stood trembling, her armor reactivated, weapons in hand. "Fight," Jator commanded. "Show me your loyalty." Karel's hands shook. She couldn't breathe. Every lesson, every scar, every cruel word from her training rose in her mind. She had been taught never to hesitate, but now hesitation was all she had. "Do it," Jator hissed. "Strike him down." "I can't," she whispered. Elias smiled faintly, blood drying on his cheek. "You're stronger than this," he said. "You always were." And then in one swift move, he stepped forward and dropped to his knees. The guards shouted in confusion. The Emperor frowned. Elias raised his bound hands, his voice steady. "If killing me saves her, then do it. But you'll never break her again." Karel's vision blurred with tears. He wasn't afraid, not even now. His calm defiance burned brighter than any weapon she'd ever seen. Something inside her snapped. With a cry that shook the hall, she turned, not toward him, but toward her father. Her blades ignited, silver light flashing. The guards lunged, but she cut through them in an instant. Sparks and screams filled the chamber. Jator roared in fury. "Karel, I am done living by your chains," she shouted, her voice full of pain and fire. "You can kill me, father, but I won't kill for you." She slashed at the device controlling Elias's cuffs, shattering them. The bindings fell and he stood free. Together they faced the Emperor, back to back. Jator's rage filled the air. "You betray your blood for a human?" Karel's voice was calm now. "No, I stand with someone who taught me what strength truly means." Elias looked at her, pride and sorrow in his eyes. "Karel, if we do this, there's no going back." "There's nothing left to go back to," she whispered. The Emperor raised his weapon, a massive energy staff that hummed with deadly light. Then you will die together. The duel that followed shook the palace. Jator's strikes were thunderous, each blow sending shockwaves through the marble floor. Karel met his fury with speed and precision, her blades flashing. Elias fought beside her, unarmed but fierce, using skill and instinct to turn every advantage. For the first time, the Emperor of the Dravari was forced backward. When the battle ended, the hall lay in ruins. Jator fell to one knee, defeated, not slain but broken by the weight of his own pride. Karel stood panting, her blade dimming. Elias caught her as her strength gave out. Around them, stunned guards lowered their weapons, uncertain. Jator's gaze met hers, full of bitterness and something else. Regret. Go, he said finally, his voice low and cracked. Leave this place. If you stay, they will kill you both. Karel hesitated, but Elias pulled her gently toward the exit. Come on, he murmured. We've done enough here. As they fled through the shattered palace, alarms echoed, and the stars beyond the window seemed to burn brighter. For the first time in her life, Karel was free, not as a princess, not as a warrior, but as herself. And as Elias guided her toward the waiting ship, she realized something she had never understood before. Humanity wasn't defined by power or conquest. It was defined by heart, and that heart now beat beside hers. The night sky of Velkara burned red as alarms screamed across the capital. Warships lifted from their docks, their engines glowing like angry suns. Searchlights cut through the darkness, chasing the two fugitives who had defied an empire, Princess Karel and Captain Elias Grant. Their stolen craft tore through the clouds, its engines struggling to outrun the pursuit. Inside the cockpit, Elias gripped the controls with calm determination, even as the hull rattled under enemy fire. Sparks flashed across the panels and warning lights blinked red. Karel stood beside him, still in her battle-worn armor, breathing hard. Her face was streaked with sweat and ash, but her eyes burned bright with resolve. They won't stop, she said. Not until we're both dead. Elias's voice was quiet but steady. Then we'll make them stop. She turned to him, searching his face. You could leave me. You could save yourself. He looked at her, a faint smile on his bruised lips. That's not what humans do. Her chest tightened. Even now, bleeding, hunted, he spoke with that same quiet courage that had first shaken her heart. The kind of courage her people had never understood. Outside, the stars opened before them, vast and endless. Behind them, the Empire roared in fury. Elias, she said softly, if we don't make it, we will, he interrupted. But if we don't, she insisted, I want you to know something. When I met you, I thought you were weak. I thought humans were fragile. But you were stronger than anyone I've ever known. Her voice trembled. You changed me. He glanced at her, and for a heartbeat his expression softened. And you reminded me what's worth fighting for. A sudden explosion rocked the ship, throwing them both off balance. Karel caught herself on the wall as smoke filled the cabin. Shields are down, Elias shouted. We can't outrun them much longer. Karel moved to the console, her fingers flying across the controls. There's a nebula ahead, she said. If we get inside, their sensors won't track us. Elias nodded. Then that's where we go. The small craft dove sharply, heading toward the swirling clouds of blue and silver light. Plasma bolts streaked past them like falling stars. A hit grazed the wing, tearing metal away, but Elias kept the ship steady. Karel watched him, admiration and fear tangled in her chest. Even on the edge of death, he never lost control. His calm wasn't cold. It was strength born of struggle, the quiet fire of a survivor. Inside the nebula, light danced around them like ghosts. The sensors flickered, static crackling through the speakers. For a moment it felt almost peaceful. Then Karel noticed the damage on the rear display. We've lost the stabilizers, she said grimly. We can't stay here for long. Elias nodded. Then we land. Somewhere quiet. Where? He pointed to a nearby moon half hidden in the mist. There. The ship descended through the clouds, engines screaming, and landed hard on a barren ridge of stone. The world outside was silent, just wind and dust beneath a pale sky. When the engines finally died, the silence felt heavy. Karel slumped into her seat, exhaustion flooding through her. Elias leaned back too, staring at the stars through the cracked viewport. For a long moment neither spoke. Then Karel whispered, What now? Elias didn't answer right away. He watched the twin suns rise over the horizon, their light reflecting in his eyes. Now we make it mean something, he said finally. Everything we fought for, freedom, peace, truth, it has to mean something. She looked at him, her throat tight. You really think peace is possible? He smiled faintly. I think it has to be. Otherwise, everything we are, everything we've lost means nothing. His words sank deep into her heart. For the first time, Karel understood that peace wasn't born from victory. It was born from pain, from loss, from people who refused to give up hope even when the stars turned against them. She reached out, touching his hand. Then I'll fight for that too. He turned his hand over, fingers brushing hers. Together? Together. For a while they sat like that, watching the alien sunrise. But peace never came easily. In the distance, shadows began to appear. 3 Imperial warships, dark against the brightening sky. They had found them. Karel rose to her feet, her eyes hard again. They won't let us go. Elias stood beside her. Then we'll show them why they should. He moved to the weapons panel and powered up the defense systems. The ship groaned, barely functional, but he didn't hesitate. Karel took her place beside him, hands ready on the controls. When the first enemy shots rained down, they fought not to win, but to be remembered. Their small ship moved like a wounded beast, darting between fire and flame. Karel's voice rang through the comms, giving orders, countering strikes. Elias handled the weapons, every shot precise, every movement filled with purpose, even surrounded. They refused to surrender, and somewhere across the stars, transmission spread, images of the fallen princess fighting beside a human, defying an empire. Soldiers who saw it hesitated. Some even refused to fire. Others whispered her name in secret, calling her the princess who chose freedom. When the final blast struck, the ship's core overloaded. The explosion tore through the ridge in a blaze of white light. The pursuing fleet pulled back, the shockwave scattering them. For a long moment there was nothing left but silence and drifting dust. Then, from the wreckage, a faint beacon began to pulse, soft, steady, like a heartbeat. Weeks later, a small freighter passing through the sector found the remains of the ship. Inside, they discovered signs of survival. 2 sets of footprints leading away from the crash site, vanishing into the distant hills. No bodies, no blood, only a single message carved into the rock near the wreckage. Strength is not in power. It's in the will to rise again. Across the galaxy, the word spread. Rebellions began to stir. The Dravari Empire trembled. And somewhere, on a hidden world far from war, 2 figures watched the stars, one human, one alien, standing side by side beneath the dawn of a new era. Karel turned to Elias, her voice soft as the wind. Do you think they'll ever understand? Elias smiled, the light of the twin suns gleaming in his eyes. Maybe not, but they'll remember. And as the morning light broke across the horizon, they walked together into the unknown, no longer enemies, no longer bound by the past, just 2 souls who had dared to believe that even in the darkest corners of the universe, hope could still survive. The legend of the human and the alien princess would echo across generations, told and retold in countless tongues. Some called it love, some called it rebellion, but to those who truly understood, it was something greater, a story about what it means to be human.